Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward is a strong example of what the leveling content for an MMORPG expansion should be. In an unusual turn of events for an MMO, one of the chief attractions of playing Heavensward is experiencing its roughly 60-hour story. This tale isn't just good for an MMO, it's the best from the entire Final Fantasy series in more than a decade. It starts immediately on the heels of where A Realm Reborn's story left off and quickly elevates into an HBO-worthy tale of betrayal and redemption, wrapped up in one of the finest tales about dragons in any medium. Of course, this great narrative strength rests on the audience knowing the relationship between key Final Fantasy XIV characters and their changes in attitude over time, and thus Square Enix makes the questionable decision to require a full playthrough of all of A Realm Reborn's story before you can even see the new Heavensward content. It's a little jarring by MMO standards for players who might be returning to play Heavensward after putting Final Fantasy XIV aside for a few months, but if you're starting from scratch, it's a smooth ramp-up to the Heavensward story. Less wisely, Square Enix also gates the 3 new jobs behind the roughly 16 hours of level 50 story content. It makes some sense to restrict access to the Dark Knight, Machinist, and Astrologian from a lore perspective, but that means that players who specifically returned for the new jobs will have to put off leveling them for a few hours, and then they'll have to level them without the truckloads of XP they would have gotten from the story quests. That's a shame, especially since they're all quite fun, even though they're only slight variations on existing jobs. Even so, once I arrived in Heavensward's new and diverse realms of Ishgard and Dravania, the dramatic shift from the zones we've seen so far impressed me. Whether it's mountains with dizzying summits, gothic spires that touch the heavens, or strange landscapes where rocks hover about like clouds, Heavensward is full of visual surprises. This is a landscape that's made for flying through on the new black chocobo mounts, and Square Enix cleverly treats the attractive freedom as a reward by making us gather items through exploration and quests before we can unlock flying for specific zones. When you finally do unlock flight, all that effort makes the achievement feel all the more meaningful. Heavensward's chief flaw is a variation of the one that affected A Realm Reborn. Here, as before, the latter levels of the leveling journey get bogged down in grindy, unfulfilling quest content. In the past, it was A Realm Reborn's over-reliance on dynamic fate events for the final push, but here it's an excess of dull, bite-sized side quests that are meant to fill in the large XP gaps between story quests between levels 55 and 60. Fates themselves are now barely worth doing because of their comparatively small rewards. These stretches are so dull, in fact, that simply running the same level-appropriate dungeons over and over was a more enjoyable way of earning XP. That speaks to the strengths of Final Fantasy XIV's group-oriented dungeon and trial design. Each of the tough boss fights is fun, and most require specific strategies to overcome. Square Enix shows that it doesn't shy away from challenging fights by sticking one just a couple of levels into the new content. It's required to advance the story, which might make some solo players wince, but the Duty Finder makes teaming up relatively painless, and it serves as a welcome reminder that overcoming challenges with other people is a part of the genre's whole appeal. Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward doesn't make sweeping changes to A Realm Reborn aside from new jobs and flying mounts, but the outstanding story it tells and new lands we visit reinvigorate the adventure and demonstrate why Final Fantasy XIV is one of the best MMOs out there. Not every side quest is a winner, but the exemplary journey to the new level cap is a model for all other MMO expansions to follow. For more on Final Fantasy XIV, you're already in the right place. IGN.